My fiance, 24 years old, and I, 22 years old, have our wedding coming up this winter. It's a small venue with limited space. Luckily, we were still able to invite everyone that is important to us. We decided on a no small children wedding due to the venue size and photographer equipment safety. We have a huge security deposit on it. Don't get us wrong, we absolutely love children. If we weren't paying for it all ourselves, and if we had a bigger venue, we'd be more than happy to accommodate the children as well. We've been trying to conceive ourselves, sadly once ending in a miscarriage. Fast forward to the day everyone starts receiving their invitations. My fiance's stepsister received her invite, and instead of coming to us about her concerns, she calls 5 family members telling them, "How dare we request for no children under the age of 10 to attend?" She has a 9-year-old and an 11-month-old daughter. By the time she called us, we had already heard from 3 of his family members about how upset she was about it. She belittled us, saying things like, "If I can't bring them, I'm not coming. It's not my fault y'all have failed to become parents," etc. Until my fiancé was on the verge of tears. He's not a crier. He really wanted her to be there. So after over 10 minutes of the nonsense, I told her she can bring them, but that she is to sit in the back. She's always been the drama starter, including asking my fiancé if she could wear a white dress to my wedding since my dress is technically ivory. He told her no, gave her the list of colors she can wear. Her words, "Oh gosh, your wedding colors are gross. It's our 2 favorite colors and used in weddings a lot." Then proceeded to tell my fiancé he needed to postpone the wedding so she can have one last Christmas with her family. Now here's where I may be the jerk. She tried to tell, not ask, but told me her kids were my ring bearer and flower girl. When I asked her when did we ever agree to that, she said, "Well, I assumed." I snapped and said, "Well, you know what assuming does. It makes a butt out of you and me." She looked at me crazy. I said, "You better be glad we are even allowing them at the wedding. Do not push our courtesy invite, or I will be more than happy to revoke it." My fiancé walked in right after that, and the comment about the white dress came to mind. I switched back to her and stated loud and clear to her, "And if you show up in that white dress you were asking about, be prepared to go home in a red one." My fiancé laughed and his stepsister stormed out. Now for an update, we are getting calls from his stepfamily saying we bullied her into not wearing a dress she liked. When we questioned them, well, it seems she never clarified that it was white to any of them. Guess that slipped her mind. Some still think we need to apologize to her because she seems really upset about it. At this point, we are thinking about uninviting them. So am I the jerk for wanting to uninvite my stepsister-in-law to avoid drama on my big day? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Oh Christ, I've read the post and I feel exhausted. This woman suffers from major main character syndrome, and it looks like just about everyone has enabled her behavior until now, as it's easier than confronting her about it. You already relented to her bringing her kids. Of course she's pushing even farther. She knows if she guilt trips you, she'll get what she wants. Uninvite her or your wedding will be the stepsister show. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Once you caved to the kids, she continued to push and push. You gave her an inch and she's going to take the whole damn mile. At this point, you should just uninvite her because it's going to be drama and you're going to look back on the day wishing you'd have stuck to your guns. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments on my last post. So here's what's been happening since then. After the whole dress mess, we decided to have a sit-down with my fiance's stepfamily to clear the air. We thought it would be best to address everything head-on rather than let it fester. We invited them over for dinner, hoping to have a calm and rational discussion. But of course, things didn't go as planned. The moment they walked in, his stepsister started complaining about the no kids rule again. She even brought up the miscarriage, which was a low blow. My fiancé was visibly upset, and I could see he was struggling to keep it together. I tried to steer the conversation back to the dress issue, explaining that it wasn't about the color, but about respecting our wishes for the wedding. She just rolled her eyes and said we were being unreasonable. Her mom chimed in, saying we were making a big deal out of nothing and that we should just let her wear what she wants. At that point, I lost my cool. I told them that if they couldn't respect our decisions, maybe it was best they didn't come at all. That shut them up, but the tension was clear. After they left, my fiancé and I had a long talk. He was torn because he really wanted his stepfamily there, but he also didn't want to deal with the drama. We decided to sleep on it and make a decision in the morning. The next day, we woke up to a barrage of texts from his stepfamily, accusing us of being selfish and inconsiderate. It was overwhelming, and I could see it was taking a toll on him. He finally broke down and said he couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to uninvite them, but he felt guilty about it. I told him that our wedding day should be about us and our happiness, not about pleasing everyone else. We agreed to uninvite them, but we wanted to do it in a way that wouldn't cause more drama. We drafted a polite but firm message explaining our decision and sent it to his stepfamily. As expected, they didn't take it well. His stepsister called us, screaming and crying, saying we were ruining her life. It was a mess, but we stood our ground. In the days that followed, we started to feel a sense of relief. The constant stress and anxiety were gone, and we could finally focus on the wedding. We made some changes to the guest list and invited a few more friends to fill the gaps. Things were starting to look up, but then we got a call from his dad. He was upset that we had uninvited his wife and stepdaughter and said he wouldn't come to the wedding if they weren't allowed. My fiancé was devastated. He had always been close to his dad, and the thought of him not being there was heartbreaking. We spent hours discussing what to do. My fiancé was torn between wanting his dad there and not wanting to deal with the drama. I could see how much it was hurting him, and I felt helpless. Finally, we decided to reach out to his dad and try to find a compromise. We invited him over for coffee and explained our side of the story. We told him about the constant disrespect and how it was affecting us. He listened quietly, and for a moment, I thought he understood. But then he said he couldn't choose between his wife and his son. He said he loved us both and wanted us to find a way to make it work. It was a tough pill to swallow, but we knew we had to make a decision. We decided to allow his stepfamily to come, but with strict conditions. They had to respect our wishes, and any sign of drama would result in them being asked to leave. We sent them a message outlining the conditions, and surprisingly, they agreed. It felt like a small victory, but we were still wary. As the wedding day approached, we focused on the positive. We finalized the decorations, picked out the cake, and even found some time to relax. My fiancé and I grew closer through the whole ordeal, and it made us realize how strong our relationship was. We knew we could face anything as long as we had each other. On the day of the wedding, everything went smoothly. His stepfamily showed up, and to our surprise, they were on their best behavior. His stepsister even apologized for her previous actions, saying she didn't want to ruin our special day. It felt genuine, and for the first time, I felt a glimmer of hope that things could improve. The ceremony was beautiful, and as we exchanged vows, I felt a sense of peace and happiness that I hadn't felt in a long time. The reception was a blast, and everyone had a great time. My fiancé's dad even pulled us aside and thanked us for finding a way to make it work. It was a small moment, but it meant the world to us. Looking back, the whole ordeal was a test of our patience and resilience. It wasn't easy, but it brought us closer together and made us stronger. We learned that sometimes you have to make tough decisions for the sake of your own happiness. And in the end, it was all worth it. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for refusing to move out of the apartment after my ex-GF kept changing her mind about staying? GF, female 29, and I, male 31, have been together for a little less than 9 years. About 3 months ago, we had a conversation about how much we've grown apart over our relationship and how we don't really share any common interests anymore. Having had this conversation, we decided that the best thing for us to do was to live together until our lease is up and then part ways as a couple, ending the relationship. Things are extremely civil between us, and we're both on the same page. Our landlord requires us to notify her of any changes in the lease in June. Our lease is up at the end of September. This is context for later. For the last few months, I have been talking to GF about who is going to live in the apartment once the other leaves. I was under the impression it would always be me since I am 31 years old and she is 29 years old, and I make more money than she does and can afford it more easily. I would drop comments in conversation about making a decision and always got, "I don't want to talk about it right now," in response. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, GF says she wants to keep the apartment instead of me. She states that it's close to her storage unit and she can swing it if she gets a roommate. Okay, No problem. I start looking for comparable apartments in the area. I'm not sweating it though, because there's plenty of time before our lease is up. And worst comes to worst, I can move in with my parents for a few months as a cushion. In the middle of looking one day, GF comes to me and says she changed her mind. I can have the apartment. I am happy, of course, and stop looking. Then after being away for a weekend with some friends, GF and I are lying in bed. It is 12:15 a.m., the night before we were planning on texting the landlord to let her know what is going on. At the end of a sentence, GF asks, "Can I stay in the apartment?" I tell her, of course, she's welcome to stay as long as she needs to find a new place. She says no, like, "Can you move out and I stay?" I immediately look at her and shut this down immediately. She tells me that she won't change her mind again, and I tell her that's not the issue here. The issue is that she has had months to figure this out and has flip-flopped back and forth multiple times within the last few weeks. I continued to hold the boundary of no, I am staying. I texted the landlord the next day, telling her as much, and agreed to help GF find a new place. Am I the jerk here, or just feeling guilty? To summarize, GF and I are splitting up, and GF wants to keep the apartment after flip-flopping about whether to move out or not over multiple weeks. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, but why don't you both move to get a fresh new start? That apartment will always have the feeling of the ex, no matter what you do, and stop sleeping together. That is what is really hurting you both. Neither of you wants to outright end your relationship. You keep drawing it out. Comment 2. Not the idiot. While she's trying to figure herself out in an apartment she can't afford, you shouldn't be disrupted. You've tried to accommodate her, but at some point it has to stop. Also, she has impacted your search, so I think it's fair that you stay. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since the last post. After I texted the landlord, things got pretty tense between GF and me. She was visibly upset, but didn't say much at first. We tried to go about our daily routines, but there was this underlying tension that neither of us could ignore. A few days later, we had a pretty heated argument. She accused me of being selfish and not considering her feelings. I shot back that she had plenty of time to make up her mind and that her indecisiveness was causing unnecessary stress. It was the first time in a long while that we had a real fight, and it left both of us feeling pretty raw. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the argument in my head, wondering if I had been too harsh. The next morning, I decided to take a walk to clear my head. When I got back, GF was sitting at the kitchen table, looking like she hadn't slept either. We both apologized, but the air was still thick with unresolved issues. A few days later, something unexpected happened. I came home from work to find GF sitting on the couch with a box of old photos. She was crying. I sat down next to her, and she handed me a picture of us from our first year together. We started talking about the good times, and for a moment, it felt like we were reconnecting. But then she said something that caught me off guard. She admitted that she had been feeling lost and unsure about her future, which was why she kept changing her mind about the apartment. She said she felt like she was losing not just a home, but a part of herself. This conversation opened up a lot of old wounds and hidden feelings. I realized that I had been so focused on the practical aspects of our breakup that I hadn't considered the emotional toll it was taking on both of us. We talked for hours, and for the first time in months, it felt like we were really communicating. We both admitted that we still cared about each other, but we knew that staying together wasn't the right choice. The next day, GF told me she had found a potential roommate and was looking at a few apartments. I offered to help her move when the time came, and she seemed genuinely grateful. It felt like a small step towards closure. However, things took another turn when GF's potential roommate backed out at the last minute. She was devastated and came to me for support. I could see how much this was affecting her, and it made me question if I was doing the right thing by insisting on staying in the apartment. I started to feel guilty again, but I knew I had to stick to my decision. In the meantime, I had my own set of challenges. My parents offered to let me move in with them temporarily, but I was reluctant to take them up on it. I felt like I needed to stand on my own 2 feet. I found a few more apartments that were within my budget, but none of them felt right. It was frustrating, and I started to feel the pressure of the situation weighing on me. One evening, while I was scrolling through apartment listings, GF came into the room and handed me a cup of tea. She sat down next to me and said, "I know this is hard for both of us, but I think we're doing the right thing." It was a simple statement, but it meant a lot. It felt like we were finally on the same page, even if it was just for a moment. As the week went on, we both made an effort to be more considerate of each other's feelings. We started cooking dinner together again and even watched a few of our favorite shows. It was a strange mix of familiarity and impending change, but it helped to ease some of the tension. Then out of the blue, GF got a call from an old friend who was looking for a place to stay. They agreed to move in together, and suddenly, things started to fall into place. She was excited and relieved, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. We started making plans for her move, and it felt like we were finally moving forward. During this time, I also had a chance to reflect on our relationship and what had led us to this point. I realized that we had both been holding on to a lot of unspoken feelings and unresolved issues. For example, I remembered a time early in our relationship when GF had expressed a desire to travel and explore new opportunities, but she had put those dreams on hold to support my career. I had always appreciated her sacrifice, but I never fully acknowledged how much it had cost her. On the flip side, I had my own set of regrets. I had always been focused on my career and financial stability, sometimes at the expense of our relationship. I realized that I had taken GF's support for granted and hadn't been as attentive to her needs as I should have been. These realizations were tough to swallow, but they also helped me understand why we had grown apart. It wasn't just about the apartment or our current situation. It was about years of unspoken feelings and unmet needs. We both had our own dreams and aspirations that we had put on hold for the sake of the relationship, and it was time to pursue them individually. As the week came to a close, we started packing up our things and preparing for the move. It was bittersweet, but it also felt like the right thing to do. We both knew that this was the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. And while it was scary, it was also exciting. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for refusing to pay for my daughter's graduation lunch after my ex-wife stole her identity? My daughter graduated today. It was attended by close family, consisting of me, my ex-wife, and my ex-father-in-law. There were also 4 current family members and 2 ex-family members. My ex-wife and I divorced partly due to financial irresponsibility. My daughter got a free ride through university, and my ex has been very much in charge of all my daughter's finances. Neither parent has had to financially contribute towards my daughter during university. My daughter worked and had grants for incidentals. I offered to assist, but I wanted full access to at least overview my daughter's financial situation and was met with resistance and some stuff I frankly found to be shady, like my ex-wife insisting she was on my daughter's bank account. I have zero knowledge of my daughter's finances, and any attempt to encourage my daughter to pull her own credit report, etc., has been met with excuses like, "I couldn't pull it because it had already been done for the year." I suspect there's some fiduciary malfeasance going on, but my daughter doesn't seem to care about it, and her main focus has been getting through university. Anytime my daughter has asked for money for gas, food, or just some money for pizza, I've sent it immediately, as I'm sure my ex-wife has. Overall, my general position has been strictly arm's length when it comes to anything to do with money and my ex-wife. My ex has more than doubled her income since we divorced and seems to be living within her means. After the graduation, we all went to my daughter's apartment and moved her stuff into our cars. My ex-wife had arranged a lunch at a nice little bistro place afterward, $20.50 a plate, as it was the only place that could seat a party of our size at that time. I had no input on this other than cool. When it came time for the bill, rather than get into a complex split, I simply said, "I'll pay for the 5 of us, me, my daughter, and 3 current family members, and we split the bill that way." Apparently, my ex-father-in-law picked up the tab for the other half. The split was 75%, 25%, with me picking up the 75%, and the grand total for the whole table was just north of $330. Now for an update. On my return home, I received a note from my ex-father-in-law. He was pissed that I had not picked up the whole tab. His reasoning was that family members had all traveled to see my daughter graduate, helped her move out of her apartment, and got her gifts and given her money. all for my daughter. I immediately apologized and explained that I had heard someone say, split it 3 ways, and I thought I was doing the right thing by paying for more than half the table. I immediately offered to give him the money, but he didn't want it. I have zero experience with university graduations, let alone post-grad lunches or the social etiquette regarding the billing thereof, especially when it comes to exes and ex-family members. And so I wondered, am I the jerk? I realize there is little to no resolve on this issue, the damage being already done, and I'll probably just treat my daughter with the money anyways. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Your former father-in-law, Ita. If he wasn't going to accept your offer of payment, he didn't need to contact you. If your wife was the one who arranged the meal, why didn't she chip in for the meal? I'm sure her father would not have suggested she pay for everyone. Comment 2. You're not the jerk. His reasoning was that family members had all traveled to see daughter graduate, helped her move out her apartment, and got her gifts and given her money. All for my daughter. Sounds like a conversation he should be having with his daughter. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading. So after the graduation lunch fiasco, things got a bit more complicated. 2 days after the lunch, my daughter called me, sounding a bit off. She mentioned that her mom had been acting weird and secretive. My daughter had asked her mom about some of her finances, and her mom got defensive. This made my daughter suspicious, so she decided to pull her own credit report, something she had been avoiding for a while. She found out that there were several credit cards opened in her name that she had no idea about. She was furious and confronted her mom, who admitted to opening the cards but claimed it was to help build her credit score. My daughter didn't buy it and felt betrayed. This led to a huge argument between my daughter and her mom. My daughter decided to move in with me temporarily while she sorted things out. She was hurt and confused, and I tried my best to support her. We spent a lot of time talking about trust and financial responsibility. I could see how much this had shaken her, and it broke my heart. A few days later, my ex-wife called me, furious. She accused me of turning our daughter against her. I tried to explain that our daughter had made her own decisions, but she wouldn't listen. She hung up on me, and I haven't heard from her since. Meanwhile, my daughter and I started looking into the credit card situation more deeply. We found out that my ex-wife had racked up a significant amount of debt on these cards. My daughter was devastated. She felt like her mom had used her and didn't know how to move forward. We decided to consult a financial advisor to figure out the best way to handle the debt and protect my daughter's credit. During this time, my daughter also started to open up about her feelings towards her mom. She mentioned that she always felt like she had to be perfect to make her mom happy. She felt a lot of pressure to succeed and never really felt like she could be herself. This was a huge revelation for me, and it made me realize how much she had been holding in. As we worked through the financial mess, my daughter and I grew closer. We spent a lot of time together, talking about her future and what she wanted to do next. She decided to take a gap year to figure things out and focus on her mental health. I fully supported her decision and promised to be there for her every step of the way. One evening, while we were having dinner, my daughter mentioned that she had been thinking about her relationship with her mom. She said that despite everything, she still loved her and wanted to try to rebuild their relationship. She asked me for advice on how to approach her mom and start the healing process. I told her that it would take time and patience, but that it was possible if both parties were willing to work on it. A week later, my daughter decided to reach out to her mom. She wrote a heartfelt letter expressing her feelings and her desire to rebuild their relationship. She didn't hear back immediately, but she felt a sense of relief just by putting her thoughts into words. In the meantime, my ex-father-in-law reached out to me again. He apologized for his earlier outburst and explained that he was just upset about the whole situation. He mentioned that he had noticed some odd behavior from my ex-wife over the past few years, but didn't think much of it at the time. He thanked me for being there for my daughter and offered his support in any way he could. As the days went by, my daughter started to feel more at ease. She was still hurt and confused, but she was also hopeful about the future. She began to explore new hobbies and interests, and I could see her slowly starting to heal. One day, my daughter received a response from her mom. It was a short message, but it was a start. Her mom apologized for everything and expressed her desire to make things right. My daughter was cautiously optimistic and decided to take things one step at a time. Throughout this whole ordeal, I realized how important it was to be there for my daughter and support her in any way I could. It wasn't easy, but it brought us closer together and helped us both grow. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.